Hey guys, on our second channel we recently made a video talking about martial arts and briefly mentioned Miyamoto Musashi, and a couple of people jumped in the comment section and said that we should talk about him on this channel in more depth, which is a pretty fair call because we do have a martial arts in Japan playlist and he would be Japan's most famous martial artist. So here we are. So the information that we have about him is from contemporary sources, because at the time he was actually famous. During his lifetime he was also famous, so there are people who wrote about him and talked about him at the time. And he also wrote books himself, and he also made art himself. He was actually quite a renowned artist at the time as well. So we get our information from those sources. So there is some conflict in different bits of information, but there is some information that seems to be in common that's probably true. So of course it's history, so some stuff's possibly exaggerated a little bit, but the key points seem to be pretty well accepted. So he was born 1584 and he had his first duel at 13 years old. Apparently there was a sort of a gung-ho swordsman who'd posted a challenge on a wall, and they used to do this old style. They'd put a challenge on the wall and say, you know, my name is whatever his name was, and I'm a good swordsman, and who's game to fight me? And whoever is game to fight me, please write your name here. And Musashi was 13 years old, and he's come along and read this thing on the wall and written his name underneath it. And apparently his father or his uncle, might have been his uncle, tried to get him out of it, that came along and saw this swordsman and said, look, sorry, but you know, he's only 13 years old, so please forgive him, and very, very sorry. And Musashi turned up at the time and place where the fight was supposed to happen and fought this guy and beat him, killed him, 13 years old, he killed him. And then there was another big one when he was 16. When he was 16 he had another big duel with another sort of semi-famous guy and killed him as well. And it's interesting reading Musashi's talking about these things. There's a consistent thread that runs right through his life, and he trained a lot, of course, and he was very, very good at swords, of course, and martial arts in general. But what's really fascinating about this guy is that he was all about tactics and strategy, and it's really fascinating reading the way he writes about these different fights, because you can see that his focus was strategy and tactics. So the next big one he had was, at 20 years old he went to Kyoto and fought a group of guys in Kyoto. And there's a few stories about him fighting in Kyoto, and there's a few famous places in Kyoto where he fought his fights. And sort of getting mixed up with the chronological order now, but at one stage he actually fought some guy from a Kyoto school, famous Kyoto school, and then the other members of the school, and beat him and killed him, and then the other members of the school challenged him. And it's fascinating. The books, I'll put links underneath this video where you can find these books. But the Book of Five Rings is the one he wrote, which is basically a book about strategy. That's the one written by him, and it's been translated into English by somebody else. And then there's a number of books. There's been books, and there's been animations, and there's been movies, and there's been manga, and there's been all sorts of stuff done about Musashi. He's really famous in Japan, so there's been lots of movies made about him in Japan. Quite often there's like TV movies made where you see it on TV, or documentaries and all sorts of things. All sorts. People are fascinated by him because, as you'll see, he's got some amazing stories going on. So yeah, Kyoto, he beat one guy, and then the other guy and the other members of the guy's group then challenged him. And he turned up at some hill in Kyoto. It's quite famous. It's still there. You can go and visit it. And he turned up there. And what he used to do is he'd turn up late, or he'd turn up early, or he'd do different things to put them off balance. And what he did was, the first time he met these guys was they were all sitting there on this hill waiting for him to turn up. And they were hiding behind trees, and they were all around the place ready for him, so that when he came they could attack him, because by this stage he had a bit of a reputation. So they're all waiting for him to turn up. And he didn't turn up, he didn't turn up, he didn't turn up. So 30 minutes later, or an hour later after he's supposed to have turned up, they all start coming out from behind their trees and things and start standing around in a group talking about it. Where is he? You know, what's going on? And then he appeared, and he actually came at them. So the idea was to be late and to put them off balance so that they'd be all sort of not prepared. So he's turned up late and he's came down a narrow path so that when they did see him, they were all frustrated and angry and off balance already. And so they've seen him come down this path and they all went for him. And because it was a narrow path, he could take on one or two of them at a time until he defeated the majority of them and the rest of them gave up, which is just fascinating. And then the same group challenged him a second time later on, and they've turned up at this place, and they were standing around talking, saying, you know, is he going to turn up late again? Is he going to turn up late again? And suddenly he appeared from behind a tree, and he'd actually come early. So he'd got there early and he was waiting for them. So they're there before the appointed time. They're not prepared yet because they think he's going to come late again. It's not even the time they're supposed to be fighting yet, and suddenly he appears from behind a tree. And of course he defeated the majority of them again. And it's just really interesting reading the stories and the strategies and the plans. Probably the most famous one was when he was 30 years old. There was another famous swordsman called Kojiro, who was a very Kojiro, who was another famous swordsman in Japan, and they ended up having challenged. I don't know who challenged who. It might have been Kojiro challenged him, and Musashi was supposed to meet him out on an island, and they were supposed to fight on this island. So Kojiro arrived out on this island with his entourage of people, and they set up little like tents and prepared. Everybody was sitting around waiting because it's a fairly monumental event to have these two famous swordsmen fighting each other. So Kojiro's entourage all set up their tents and their little you know, going to the beach type stuff, sitting around on the beach waiting to watch these two famous swordsmen. And in the meantime, Musashi's still on the mainland asleep, and the guy that was travelling with him, who was actually Takuan, this is pretty interesting. Takuan, you guys would probably know Takuan pickles, and Takuan pickle is a pickled radish in Japan. And Takuan was a famous Buddhist priest and was travelling around with Musashi. And Takuan's trying to wake Musashi up, and Takuan himself is a famous guy in Japan, and they're actually together at this stage. And Takuan's saying to him, you've got to get out there, you're supposed to be there by now, and you're lying around on your bed, what's going on? And Musashi's saying, yeah, I'm coming, and just finally sort of wandered out, and they got on a boat, and the boatman rowed Musashi out to this island. And Kojiro was famous for having a sword that was longer than normal. So he used to use that to his advantage in fights, and he used to beat people a lot by using this slightly longer sword. So they're rowing out, the boatman's rowing Musashi out to this island for this fight. And Musashi's picked up an oar off the floor of the boat, a big long oar, and started to sort of carve it, shape a handle on it, and shape the end of it. And he's arrived at the island, and in the meantime Kojiro's pacing up and down the beach saying, where are you? Where are you? Where is he? Where is he? What's going on? And then he sees the boat coming and he's pacing up and down the beach getting really angry, because of course it's offensive, right? If you've been challenged and you're supposed to arrive at a certain time and you leave the other guy waiting, it's an insult to that other guy. So Kojiro's really angry. And he's pacing up and down the beach, running up and down the beach, getting really annoyed. And the boat comes in, and Musashi steps out, and Kojiro runs up and pulls out his sword out of his saya, out of his scabbard, and throws the scabbard away and says, you know, how dare you insult me by turning up late? And Musashi says, you've lost already, why else would you throw away your scabbard? And this is classic Musashi for a whole heap of reasons. One is that he's turning up late to put the guy off balance. The second thing is that it's worked, that this guy is really annoyed at him, he's very angry at him, and he's throwing his scabbard away. And then another part of this is interesting, is that Musashi has stayed calm and observant as always, and saw that he threw his scabbard away and said to him, you've lost already, why else would you throw away your scabbard? Because obviously if the other guy thought he was going to win, he'd keep his scabbard because he'd need that for after the fight to put his sword away. But evidently he suspected he might lose, that's why he threw it away. And of course he did. He did. It wasn't a very long fight. Apparently there was a couple of swings, and Musashi brought him down with one blow of the oar and then killed him with the second blow of the oar. Hit him across the chest from memory and killed him. So that was the other interesting thing about Musashi fights, because they were all strategy. Quite often they'd just stand there waiting to see the weakness in the other person before they attack. So quite often a Musashi sword fight would just be 20 minutes of two guys looking at each other or moving around and nobody striking, because there's no gap, waiting for a space, waiting for a gap, waiting for an opportunity, and just moving around in kamo, just waiting for a space. So as you can see, just a fascinating guy with no end of fascinating stories. His book, the one he wrote, the Book of Five Rings, is this one, and that was $38, that book. So it's a hardcover, but an excellent book. It's sort of similar to the Chinese book, Sun Tzu, The Art of War by Sun Tzu. It's sort of similar because it's all strategies. It's all strategies about war and about fighting, but they can be applied to normal life as well. And it's fascinating and sort of thought-provoking stuff. But it's sort of interesting. It's sort of interesting. A lot of his writings are sort of enigmatic. You know, a lot of them are sort of a bit of a riddle. Just a couple of quick ones. There's one here: being like a rock wall. Being like a rock wall is when a master of martial arts suddenly becomes like a rock wall, inaccessible to anything at all, immovable. This is transmitted by word of mouth. So a lot of the stuff in this book in itself is just a hint of something else. You know, quite often he'll write these sort of tantalizing things like that, and then he'll say, you should learn more about this, or you should study more on this, or you need to practice this, or you need to learn this, which is sort of interesting because, you know, a lot of these things without him around would be hard to learn. So, an inspiring guy. And then around his 30s, around the time of the big Kyoto fight, he was a Buddhist. He'd been a Buddhist most of his life, and then around his 30s he started to get really hardcore with the Buddhist practice. And he used to do a lot of, he did Shodo, he did calligraphy, he did flower arranging, ikebana, and he did tea ceremony. So as well as all these martial arts that he practiced, he used to practice these other arts as well. And it's not unusual for martial artists to do that, because it's a centering, balancing, relaxing practice that they do to be centered and balanced and calm. And that's the key. When you read his books, it's the common thread, is that when these fights are going on, he's really calm and centered and balanced, and doesn't get phased, and keeps his head clear. And modern martial artists will tell you the same thing. That's the right mindset for a martial artist to be in. Is just to have a clear mind and a peaceful mind, and be calm and tranquil in the middle of a fight. And that's what he did, and that's what he could do, and that's what he's really good at. But interestingly, as his Buddhist beliefs became stronger, he started to feel that he didn't want to kill people anymore. And he used to get challenged a lot because he was so famous. You know, everywhere he went, there'd be somebody who'd pop up and say, you know, I'll fight you. And they'd pull out their sword, and then it would be on, because with the old code, the samurai code, if someone challenged you, you're sort of obliged to go through with it. So, but he was killing people all over the place, of course. 30-something people, 30-something duels or something that he'd had. And he didn't want to kill people anymore. So what he did was he stopped carrying his katana and started carrying a bokken, so just a wooden sword. So same size and shape as a real sword, but it's made of wood, and usually they're used for practice. So he started carrying one of those instead of carrying his katana. So if someone attacked him with a katana or challenged him, he'd just pull out this wooden training sword, and he'd use it to break their arm or break their leg or somehow, or their wrist or something, and disable them so that they have to stop fighting and the fight would be over. But he wouldn't have killed them, he would have just damaged them. That was his way of dealing with the not wanting to kill people. So just a fascinating, as you can see why there's been so many movies and so many animations and so many manga and so many stories told about him. They're still making them. It's quite often we turn on TV and there's a new Musashi movie on, or a series. They have television series sometimes of Musashi. So extremely famous, and for lots of reasons. I mean, one was that he'd fought the most duels without losing, and all those sorts of things. But also because of the depth to him, his strategies and his planning and his thinking. He was your thinking man's warrior, which is quite inspiring to a lot of people. So the book is fascinating. Probably the best strategy, if you're really interested in this topic, is to read his book, The Book of Five Rings. There's this one. There's also some other versions that have been translated by other people as well. We'll put some links underneath this video so that you can find this one. And then there's no end of books written about him. There's a few in English. This Book of Five Rings has been translated to English. There's a few other books about him that have been translated into English. So we'll put links for those down below as well. If your Japanese, reading Japanese level is really good, there's endless books and information about him that you can find. So really fascinating stuff. Probably not a bad way to go is to read something about his life story, or read one of the stories about him, one of the biographies about him, and then read the one that he wrote. This is the one he wrote, Book of Five Rings. Because if you read his biography first and then you read the Book of Five Rings, it sort of puts it in perspective a little bit more. You'll know more about the man himself as you're reading his writings, which is sort of fascinating. And then probably after you've done that, you'll probably go off and read another biography then, because it is fascinating. And not just for people who are martial artists, business people can learn from this too. In the same way that Sun Tzu, The Art of War, teaches strategies that you can apply in life, Musashi does as well. The turn up early thing. Someone tells you they're going to come and complain to you at 3 o'clock. They want to have a serious discussion about something with you. Phone them at 2:30 and say, what is it? Brilliant stuff. It's really, really good stuff. So fascinating, and if nothing else, entertaining. Certainly entertaining. So anyway, hopefully somebody has found this interesting and inspired somebody to go and look into Miyamoto Musashi a little bit more. Hope you enjoyed that. More videos coming soon.